I grew up in a family that always loved me and always supported me, and we went through a really hard time for about 5 years. And during that time, I wanted to step up and be there for them, but at the same time, I was struggling. I didn't know what depression was. I didn't know that anyone else self-harmed. I didn't know that that was a thing. And I really put my own needs on the back burner because in my head I was thinking, my family loves me, nothing's happened to me. Why am I feeling this? I'm so ungrateful. And I really just held that all in, and one day I just was laying on my bed. I was home alone. I was just screaming, crying, literally yelled at the universe, like, let something happen to me, make something happen to me, like, I can't do it anymore. I need to, something just needs to happen to me, and I couldn't do it. So that was definitely a really hard moment for me because it was the first time I really cracked, the first time my true feelings really broke through, and it was scary. I was like, where's this coming from? And I realized I was just suppressing all of that. I really was just living, but I didn't feel like I was living. Days I would just be going throughout my day, and to everyone else I was this happy kid. I would play soccer. My coaches, would always say, Wellman, you're always so happy, you're always smiling. And on the inside, I was really hurting, but I was able to go through the day like that because it really felt like I was watching myself live. Coping was not something that I did very well. Self-harm was definitely a part of that, and eventually I couldn't take it anymore. And wanted to end my life. So luckily I got out of that, and coping for me turned into, things that I would learn in therapy, workshops. I was hospitalized. I learned how to really deal with my feelings and being honest. Honesty was something that took a really long time for me because I was trying to protect my parents, I was trying to protect my family, I was trying to protect my friends from that burden. I always felt like I was a burden. In the back of my mind, I never thought I have no future. I never thought that when I was having suicidal thoughts or actions. That was never it. It was just that there was so much on top of me that I didn't think I could live with it anymore. But when I was hospitalized, I was in the ambulance and I was young. I was really young. I was 11. I was freaking out. And the EMT who was in the back with me, he was talking to me and talking about his own struggles with anxiety and how he turned it into something great, and he helped people, and he really used his own struggles and turned it into a beautiful thing. And I will never forget that. And that's the moment I realized, I'm going to actually try. I have 2 younger siblings, and I knew that I never wanted them to feel anything that I felt. And that was always in the back of my mind, and helping others was something I always have wanted to do. I love working with kids. I love making people feel like they have a place to belong.
The hardest moment for me was for sure being such a young kid and having to go through so much and so much put on my shoulders, being surrounded by all this anger and violence and fighting at such a young age. I was 7, 8 years old when I was exposed to my parents fighting and yelling at each other and crying in my mom's arms because of the stuff my dad would say, all these hateful words towards her. I was too young to do anything. I was too young to voice my thoughts to my parents. I didn't have anyone to talk to, so all that pressure was put on me, and I started doing stuff like I would throw up every single night, 12 o'clock on the dot, go and throw up just because it was my reaction. And then when I was later, like when I was 9 years old, I would start passing out and fainting. It was just like, just because I wasn't talking to anyone about it, it was a reaction, you know, that my body was having because I was holding in all these feelings and like they were coming out like throwing up, or I would just pass out and like call the ambulance, go to the hospital. And even one time, like it was before outdoor ed, so I was like, put this stress on me of outdoor ed, and then my parents fighting, like I had a seizure. I'll never forget it. Friday morning, like I go in the mirror, I like look in the mirror, it's the weirdest thing ever. I crack my elbow and I like feel dizzy, and I walk in the room and I remember just hitting the ground. And then all I remember is like I came up in my mom's arms and she was like hitting me on the head like Luke, 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 like she used to do when I would pass out. And I woke up and she's like, you just had a seizure, and like she's like, I'm gonna call 911. And I was just sitting there, I was like crying and crying. I was like, help me. And at that point, it was more than just help me with like make me better from the seizure. It was like help me from everything. I was like, help me, like this all has to stop, all this fighting. And then as time wore on, my mom got full custody. As I got older, my mom finally got me into a therapist because she realized I wasn't talking to anyone about it. So April 2017, sophomore year of high school, you know, it hit me again, and this time it wasn't me, it was my friend. She had committed suicide, and you know, the thought of me going through mental health struggles when I was younger and seeing her mental health struggles, and then also seeing how it affected the community around me, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do something about this because this can't happen anymore. I don't wanna see my close friends or even my acquaintances like ever go through something like that. Like they shouldn't have to sit there in their room alone and talk to themselves or have the effects that I was having. You know, that's what really made me mad is like, well, if you talk about it, it's gonna put it in their head. Well, odds are, like, if you're talking about it, it's already in their head and they're already thinking about it. So the best thing to do is like to talk to people about it and release the stigma. Like,
I want to help other people. One of the biggest things I took away from being in the hospital was that I wasn't alone. I was the youngest one there, and the kids around me were going through some of the exact things that I was going through. Like they would say something and I was like shocked. I was like, I really thought I was the only one. So I think that's the biggest thing for me is I can't exactly help people in the way that I plan on doing in the future. Need some education for that, but right now what I can do is share my story with others and really just let them know that you're not alone.
For Play for Prevention, we do events all around the Bay Area with the sports team wearing our socks, the signature Play for Prevention socks with our logo on it. Seeing another kid go up in front of a crowd at a football game of 5,000 people and talk about mental health struggles, like it's realer if I come in and say it or if Emily comes in and says something about it, because that way they can relate and they know that someone has been through it, and it just creates this talk around the town, kind of like, you are not alone.